Hello everyone, this is Philosykos, so welcome to my channel. Today I continue talking about perfume profiles and it's all about fig. And fig note is one of those types of fruit that has both fruity and greenish aspect to it, and depending on how a particular perfume is done, you may be getting one or the other or even both of these aspects. And therefore, depending on what a particular fragrance is, it can be referred to either green or fruity profile. So let's see, but without further ado, let's jump into the ocean of perfumes. And the first perfume I'd like to talk about doesn't really need any introduction, that's how popular it is. It's called Figue di Amalfi by Acqua di Parma. But nonetheless, let's get reminded of the notes that Romantica is listing. So on the top we've got grapefruit, bergamot, citron and lemon. In the middle there's fig nectar, jasmine and pink pepper. And finally in the base there's fig tree, cedar and benzoin. So the first touch of this perfume takes you instantly to the sweet fruity area to the point of syrupy consistency initially. However, in just a few seconds, the syrupy aspect gets calmer and what you're getting is this extremely sweet fig, its fruity part to be precise. It's this juicy, sweet flesh of the fruit, but the one that's fresh and velvety as well. And this velvety aspect gives me the imagery of fruit shell that has this velvety texture. Perhaps out of all fig dedicated perfumes, this one is by far my most favorite one in the whole collection. And rightfully so. It satisfies easily both my sweet tooth and also appeal for refreshing quality due to its juiciness and freshness. The scent is beautifully linear, but unique in a way that whilst remaining fruity and sweet, somehow it manages to stay nicely classy and grown-up due to green velvety accord, I think. Although, of course, it may easily appeal to literally all age groups, starting with teenagers all the way up to a more mature public. The concentration is EDT, but the longevity is pretty decent, about 5 hours in my case. But I personally prefer to wear a decant whenever I'm away from home, especially if I want to have a stronger presence of this beautiful summery bright perfume. In my view, because of velvety sweet structure, it can also be nicely worn in between the seasons and even as a pick-me-up option in a colder climate or season. Next up is yet another beautiful fig forward release. It's called quite simply Figue, and it is released by the house Molinard. But as always, let's take a quick look at the notes that Romantica is listing. So on the top we've got fig, lemon and black currant. In the middle there's green leaves, floral notes and jasmine samberg. And finally in the base there's cedar, musk and amberwood. Now this one is yet another perfume dedicated to a fig that's on a sweeter side, but with this one you get even more sweetness. And syrupiness never really leaves this fragrance. Indeed, there's this almost sugary sweetness that this beautiful scent has to it, but you can clearly tell that sweetness is coming entirely from this fruit, and there are no separate artificial ingredients added to it. So if Acqua di Parma is an extremely ripened fruit, this one is the likes of a sweet fig jam perhaps, where the fruit and the fig have been marinated and cooked together in one pot, so that without losing any figgy fruity vibe whatsoever, it's now extremely sweet to a point of being a dessert. However, this sweet fruit never enters any simplistic territory due to a strong presence of woody and just a touch of bitterish notes. And if you concentrate on a woody aspect of this fragrance, there's almost a bit of milkiness coming from the composition. The scent is quite linear as well, except for the longer it sits, the better balanced it gets, where fruity, figgy sweetness is complemented beautifully by woody and lactonic touch as well. And it may be woodiness lended by a cedar note that gives off this milky faucet to the fragrance. Also, the fragrance from start to finish is quite juicy and also very long-lasting, true to its EDP concentration, of course, about 6 to 7 hours. Also, equally to many Molinard releases, I find this scent largely underrated. And it's a big shame, really, especially given relative affordability of Molinard releases compared to their equivalents from other houses. So, a big, huge recommendation as a sweet fig gourmand that's unisex, remember all the woodiness, and also as an all seasons wear due to both fruitiness for spring summer and sugary sweetness for your autumn winter season. Again, very affordable by comparison with other options and also very long lasting. What's not to like? Next up is yet another beautiful release, this time by the house Prada. It belongs to the Infusion line and it's called Infusion de Figue. But as always, let's take a look at the notes that Fragrantica is giving. So on the top we've got mandarin orange, in the middle there's fig, and in the base there's mastic or lentisque and also galbanum. Now this release makes a bit of a shift from a sweet fig territory. So the opening is still fig strong, but this fig is quite different this time. To my nose it's a touch sweet fig, but the one that has a hefty supply of green faucets landed by galbanum. And as the scent sits, green faucets get amplified as well. It's also a touch citrusy, very clean, and also very powdery, true to the Prada's Infusion DNA it belongs to, of course. And if I think of this scent in terms of occasion, overall very summer appropriate, and if I narrow down this choice to the social occasions, my first choice would be an office wear, perhaps any work environment for that matter. Whilst being dedicated to a fig fruit, it's equally quite powdery as said previously, and because of clean aspects and quiet nature that this scent has to it, it will not likely to offend anyone around, trust me. You may think that because of all the powderiness this fragrance has, it may be feminine leaning. But remember green faucets reference, so no, this fragrance is straight unisex. So the longevity is great too, about all day. So overall beautiful powdery and clean fig forward scent that's multi-seasonal, unisex and also long-lasting. Next up is another quite different release from all the rest. So it's by the brand Diptique and it's called Philosykos. So let's take a look at the notes that Fragrantica is listing. So what we've got here is the following. So it's fig leaf and fig on the top. In the middle there are green notes and coconut. And finally in the base there's fig tree, woodsy notes and cedar. Now with this one we're abandoning sweet figgy territory whatsoever. And this release remains a very popular in the fragrance community because I continue hearing a lot of it as an integral part of many collections. And for a good reason again, as it has become sort of a classics, having been with us since as early as 1996. So right from the start, this perfume is fresh, leafy and somewhat green. And no wonder, yet again, just look at the notes. I mean, there is fig leaf, green notes, fig tree. Overall, sheer abundance of freshness and greenery. But to my nose, what's interesting is that this scent is not in the realm of grassiness, but rather a leafy woody freshness that young twigs and leaves of a tree may give off. And fair enough, we've got plenty of woodsy notes in here too. But it's this quality precisely that makes this fragrance so good to me, as except perhaps for herbs like mint, lavender and eucalyptus, I'm not a big fan of greeniness in the fragrances, unless it's well balanced with other notes, of course, and all because of a sweaty effect that green accords may give off sometimes to my nose. But you may say, wait a minute, what about fig? So yes, the fig here as a fruit is hardly detectable in fact. This perfume is all about green, woody aspects of a fig tree, but remember in a very particular way as said earlier. And if there is a fig fruit, as the case may be very often, here it's a supporting act rather, perhaps balancing that utter green and woody, dry nature of it. But that's exactly what makes this fragrance unisex and not straight masculine leaning. And same goes with coconut notes, I believe. Whilst not being really detectable on its own, it softens nonetheless rough edges and smoothens dryness of green faucets in here, being this well-known provider of creaminess. In the dry down, though, there is this creamy hint coming from coconut, but again, this perfume remains very woody green from start to finish overall. In the best traditions of all the releases, this scent is super long-lasting. I can smell it on my clothes next day easily. This scent is also very clean, so totally appropriate for any work environment. And as far as season is concerned, I'd probably wear it during spring, summer, just because it immediately puts you in tune with awakening or perfectly woken up leafy environment that nature gives us during this time of year. And finally, the fragrance, the last fragrance for today's video, it's called Citrus Figue by Clean Reserve. So, as always, let's take a look at the notes that Fragrantica is giving. So as far as this one is concerned, on the top we've got lemon and ginger. In the middle there's mandarin orange, mint and cardamom. Also copaiba balm. And in the base there's sandalwood, cedar and musk. This fragrance, as the previous ones, each in their own way, is yet another unique fig dedicated release. Because based on Fragrantica notes, there is not fig at all. However, I can clearly smell the citrusy and green fig fruit. And that's exactly what the world of perfumery never fails to deliver. Capacity to create something without necessarily using this something as an ingredient. So yes, this fig perfume is definitely about fig, but this fruit is unripened and green. Also, it's not sweet at all and has this bitterish touch that only contributes to the impression of an unripened green shell of a fig, perhaps. So again, it's your green bitterish fig, all of it, shell and inside of a fruit. And you know how it is when fruit is unripened and it hasn't yet quite formed any fruity inside. So effectively representing this plant hanging on a tree rather than representing fruit as such. And that's exactly the imagery I'm getting. And if not for a good deal of lemon added here, this scent would have been probably quite intolerable, but because of a citrus, it's extremely pleasant, invigorating, fig-forward cologne. And ginger, of course, contributes to the brightness of this beautiful eau de cologne impression nicely. So imagine this green, fig plant that's, shifted in the gingery, citrusy direction on the left and toned by the zingy nature, natural note of the mint and cardamom on the right. And so this composition in time, in the deep dry down, is this grounded by creamy sandalwood and cedar, lending this extra dry woody accord. So you may not necessarily tell it from the notes, but in fact this perfume is quite a complex, transforming release, which for Freshie is quite a special bonus. The longevity is decent, about 5 hours, very unisex release as there is abundance of freshness again, a bit of creaminess in the dry down catering to women, but at the same time abundance of woody and mint spicy accord typical for a male cologne. Naturally, this release is best for a day wear on the hottest of summer days or as a brilliant pick-me-up option for all seasons and climates. So, as said before, this has been the last perfume for today's video. If you've liked this video, please give it a like. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Please provide your comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.